Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your lunch and have some space for some food for thought. And I hope that at this hour, the only thing that will fall asleep is your phone. Right. So I try to keep this going pretty fast so that. So, okay, my name is Dash, and who the hell am I? Okay, so so I'm an entrepreneur, but none of your unicorn. I've not built a unicorn. I'm kind of an underdog, but I built 2 successful companies, sold them. I started off as an accountant, but in my community, you're either an accountant, a lawyer, engineer, or a failure. Nobody decides to become an accountant, or everybody needs to work, So, but anyway, I started as an entrepreneur very much early in school. I started a tuition center, and then I came out, went to university, came back. When I was 26 years old, I started my company, those days brick and mortar. I really got interested in entrepreneurship after my businesses, and I wanted to really get the excitement going in Malaysia. So in the early 2000s, I joined various organizations and started promoting entrepreneurship. And then I got very, very interested, and I went off for 1.5 years. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Daria for inviting me. I've known her for the last 13 years. She and her partner, she's young, but I'm older, but she was in school when I knew her. So, so I went off to do a 2-year stint at the Judge Business School. Not the right place to study entrepreneurship, to look into entrepreneurship in a more detailed manner, what makes entrepreneurs tick and all that. And I came back and launched Startup Malaysia. And Startup Malaysia was very much an ecosystem evangelist, or fire starter, as you would say. And during this period, I brought many programs. One of it was Silicon Valley Come to Malaysia, which I brought the founder of YouTube, LinkedIn, Naval Ravikant, and all these people, and Amaret as well, in that same category. Anyway, so long story short, yes, I've been the ecosystem, seen through the trenches, worked with many, many ecosystem players. In the last 2-3 years, I've been coaching senior entrepreneurs, as well as I've launched a project called Act 2. Act 2 is basically about transitioning midlifers into entrepreneurship. That's it, okay? So, done about myself. Now, I just want to know, everyone here is an entrepreneur, venture capitalist, angel investors, ecosystem builders. Now, how do you start a company? I know I'm asking the ducks how to swim, but let me ask this to anyone here. If you have an idea, what are the steps to starting a company?
Analyze the market.
Analyze the market.
Maybe find the problem first.
Find the problem, analyze the market.
Build a prototype.
Sorry? Build a prototype.
Talk to customers.
Sorry? Talk to customers. What else? Market it.
Regulations.
Raise money. Regulations. Build a team. What else? And that's what we are taught, right? This is what we are taught. Okay, so this is all the basic things, that conventional wisdom of building a company. I can see some of our very senior friends saying, what the fuck is he talking about? Of course, this is how the companies are built, So this is how we are taught about how to build a company. What I'm going to talk to you about is something that is counterintuitive. And this counterintuitive approach is not from the Frank Sinatra School of Entrepreneurship. Do you know what a Frank Sinatra School of Entrepreneurship is? I did it my way. Every talk you go to, the entrepreneur is talking about, I did it my way. None of that bullshit. There is a lot of research that has gone into this. A lot of empirical data has gone into this. It's done by a researcher, which I will tell you, an entrepreneur. So this is the world we live in. We have lived in before. Everything is predictable very quickly. And the world today is after the 2000, can you take some photos, please? Your camera, yeah. Yeah, and after the 20th century, the world has become topsy-turvy. Everything is moving very fast. This is also from one of the sites where you didn't expect where you will be and what you're going to another, a new future. ChatGPT completely turned this upside down, right? Yeah. And the pandemic has completely turned, none of this is expected, but it's all has been in the making, okay? So Sue Siegel says the world will never be as slow as it is today, okay? The world is just going to be faster. So entrepreneurship today is about embracing uncertainty. It's not about predicting anymore. It's about embracing uncertainty and seeing how do you prepare for a future that you cannot predict anymore, okay? And teaching entrepreneurship, I didn't say it again. This is Bill Ollett. Bill Ollett runs the MIT entrepreneurship program. During the pandemic, he came up with an article, with a big article, and he said, I thought my job was to create startups. Until now, I realized that my job is not to create startups, but to create anti-fragile humans. Humans who are anti-fragile, who becomes better with change, who becomes more robust with change, who becomes more enduring with change. So he calls this from the book from Anti-Fragile, Nassim Taleb. If you read the book, Nassim Taleb says about the same thing. The future is about anti-fragile humans. That you fragile, damaged by change. When you're resilient, you're broken sometimes by change, but when you're anti-fragile, you're changing with change. Okay, you're changing with change. And that's what MIT found out. And then the end of the mythical entrepreneur, the one who finds the idea and then yada, 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 light bulb moment, writes a business plan, lots of investment money, builds a product. This is the mythical story that we read day in, day out. This is the mythical story that we read in all our books. This is a mythical story that we hear from every single entrepreneurship event we go to. I did it my way, the Frank Sinatra School of Business, okay? But if you asked, so because this whole thing, right, and our content, our entrepreneurship content all comes from the old management books, from Harvard Business School and all that. Like yesterday I was talking to someone, they said, oh, we need to teach marketing, we need to teach digital, we need to teach whatever to entrepreneurs, and that's not what we need to teach at this stage of entrepreneurship. So most of the curriculum looks like this. And Steve Blank, you know, that said, we are teaching them wrong things. And if you look at the video, he will tell you that there are two phases of startups. One is the search phase and one is the delivery phase. Search phase is completely different, right? So all this is something that you already know. Now, I got involved in this about 10 years ago. Professor Dr. Saraswati, whom I work with now, and I got very curious during my time in Cambridge, what really makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial? What really makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial? And Professor Saraswati, you can go to effectuation.org. She basically said the economic theories did not have entrepreneurs in them. And she wanted to find a microeconomic theory on entrepreneurship and how entrepreneurs actually built ventures. So she worked with Herbert Simon, who was a Nobel Prize winner, not only in economics, but he's also one of the fathers of artificial intelligence. And they looked at the minds of entrepreneurs. They said they need to go back and look at entrepreneurs and how did they actually work and how did they actually create companies. Is it the way that we actually understand it to be, or is there an alternative method in which they are building companies? You know, so they said, look, we need to go and research them. So Professor Saraswati and Herbert Simon, who were in Carnegie Mellon, they did a study of, this is 25 years ago or 30 years ago. They defined expert, they said we got to study expert entrepreneurs. They must have run companies for more than 15 years. They must have run multiple companies, at least taken one public, failed many times, And at that time, they defined that definition. They only could find 245 of them globally. Excuse me. There's a lot of research on this. There's a lot of data. You can actually look them up. And they actually went to these 245 of the entrepreneurs, and 45 of them basically came back with their results. This was a 17-page problem set with protocols, right? Typical questions on how they made decisions. This is not after you have made decisions. This is not a biography, but as they are making decisions. So the study is on this, in this book, and it's actually like studying chess players, right? If you ask a chess player, how did you play chess? He may just tell you this is what I did. But as they are thinking, as they are making decisions on every move, they made a huge study on this. And this is what they found out. They decided they will go back and say expert entrepreneurs means expert in what? And they found they were expert in making decisions in conditions of uncertainty. And uncertainty was the center of entrepreneurship, all right? So they went back to Frank Knight, who was an economist, who wrote this thing about uncertainty. And Frank Knight said that there are 3 types of uncertainties, which I will talk to you about. He said entrepreneurs worked in a space where the future is not only unknown, but also unknowable, right? If you are going out for a date tonight, you will not be able to predict. Okay, maybe you may be able to predict what's going to happen on the date, but I'm saying the entrepreneurs found that the future is not only unknown, and it's unknowable. And the second thing is goals are ambiguous. No matter what goals you make in entrepreneurship, you are not necessarily going to achieve that. Any entrepreneur here achieved whatever goals that he planned to achieve? I like to hear that. So the business plan, as you all know, doesn't really work, right? And information is isotropic. Information is isotropic means that they don't know what information they need, actually, even to make this business happen. So these are three things. So it is called the Knightian uncertainty. So what is a Knightian uncertainty? It's a bit technical here, but I will go through it. Now, assuming there is a box of 10 balls, 5 blue and 5 red, and if you need to pick up red balls, what's your probability of getting red balls? Out of 10? 50%, right? 5, yeah. So 1 out of 2 is a red ball. So this is risk. This is measurable risk, okay? So this is it, no problem. Now, if you have a box full of balls with different colors, and then you got to pick up the red balls, how do you come up with a kind of permutation, and what's your probability of a red ball with many balls in there? Sorry? Anyone quickly? I don't have much time. Yeah, do a small sample, trial and error, and then you come up with a kind of a formula, and then you do it, right? So that's uncertainty. But the world doesn't come in these 2 boxes. The world is like that, okay? Which is a Knightian uncertainty. You pick up, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't even know what other things are going to happen. You have no idea what are the resources that you're going to work with. Right? This is called the Knightian uncertainty. The entrepreneur is saying, I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but I know I have this idea. I don't know who is going to be able to help me, which we saw all the distractions and all the so-called helpers and all this blah, blah, blah. And we still have 98% failures or whatever it is. And they said, look, this is what the world is. And an entrepreneur has to deal with this. So how does an entrepreneur deal with this? So Cyrus and Herbert Simon came up with this idea. They said that entrepreneurs do not think in the way that we are taught in school, which is causal logic. That means we are predicting this is what will happen, this is how it will happen. But they think the inverse of causal logic, which is called effectual logic. Now, what is effectual logic? Okay? They do not think the way that we say, oh, okay, we will have to do this, and then we have to do this step, and then we have to do that step. No. I think If you go to an entrepreneur and you ask a very, very successful entrepreneur, excuse me, how did you actually start the company? And this is what you will probably hear, or most likely hear. Effectual logic. So back to this. How do you control a future you cannot predict? So Saraswati, these slides are not mine, yeah. This is directly sent to me by Professor Saraswati, who did the research. So these are her slides. So I didn't cook this up. So credit to her. So she says, entrepreneurs work with what is already within their control, okay? And they co-create the business with self-selected stakeholders, okay? This is what they said. Now, assuming that you want to set up a company, set up a restaurant, the first thing you would do is what? Oh, I'm going to start a restaurant, I'm going to find a big place, I'm going to raise money, I'm going to do this, blah, 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 and then you start a restaurant, and then you find that you can't fail, and nobody will even give you money. But if you said, I'm going to start something, and I'm going to start with who am I, and what I know, and who do I know, you start with something, and then you start with working with people that you already have under your control. So she says that it is like working with clay, you know, that you are shaping the venture as you go along, okay, not through a kind of a plan. So what entrepreneurs do is they have broken up the prediction control space with these two dimensions, which will give you enough content to talk about how they actually work on ventures, right? The first is the visionary. I mean, the visionary is someone who says, okay, this is what I'm going to build, this is what I'm going to have, and I'm going to go and change the world. Steve Jobs or whoever, Mark Zuckerberg, or the story you heard. But do you think they started that way? Any of your VCs? Do you think Steve Jobs started by saying, I'm going to conquer the world? Not really, right? I would like your input. I don't think anyone did that, right? They didn't say, oh, that's my vision. I'm going to start this whole huge thing. No, they never did that, okay? This is what happens mostly in smaller entrepreneurs, adaptive entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. They are just saying, okay, I will go with the flow and see what I can do. But what usually happens is causal. They say, okay, this is my idea. This is what you told us. You told us just now. This is my idea. I'm going to do market research. Then I'm going to go and test the market. And then I'm going to talk to customers. I'm going to do design thinking. I'm going to come back and find product market fit. After finding product market fit, blah, 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 the lean methodology and whatever it is. That's what you're going to do. That's what we are being taught. But the research shows the opposite, that entrepreneurs are more effectual, okay? Now, I will go through the process of how that works, and I can show you a lot of stories. I'll finish up with one story. So this is the 5 principles. So they found out there were somewhat 5 principles. There could be many more, but the research found out 5 principles that entrepreneurs use over and over and over again, okay? Now, it's like the cooking analogy. You either cook with a menu, which is you do your business with a business plan, or you open up the fridge and see what's there and what is available and you cook. You know, and most of the entrepreneurs do the other way. They don't just look at the menu and cook. So the 5 principles are, I'll tell you upfront what they are. The first one is bird in hand, and she says that entrepreneurs actually start with, you know what, I have so much experience, I have this much of money available with me, the who am I, they're goals driven, I don't know the light, I can send you the slides. And this is what I know and this is what I have. And if you go back to all the old entrepreneurs, I think Chandra was here, he's got a family business. If you interview his father, if you interview the other entrepreneurs, and even if I've interviewed Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, they start with who they are, what they know, and who they know. Okay, and that's where they start with. The second one is completely counterintuitive to finance people. they start with, what can I do for affordable loss? What is it that I can afford to lose? Right? Not how much money can I raise so that I can give you a return on investment. That never did happen. They always did with, I have this much money, and I have this much resources, and I know so and so people who can give me these kind of resources. I start doing that, and I will take it from there. It's what I can afford to lose. Okay, they started that way. The third principle is what she called the crazy quilt. Crazy quilt is very much bringing people on board, bringing self-selected stakeholders on board. Oh, I can work with Amarit, or I can work with Cabin, I can work with anyone. You know, I can bring self-selected stakeholders to say, you know what, I'm building this venture, and I need to work with someone. I don't have the kind of money, you know, and I want to start like this. And this is how you get the self-selected stakeholders in. Partnerships are more than competition. And then the laminate principle is all very simple, yeah? You'll say, oh, what the hell is this? It doesn't have any of this jargon like awesome, amazing, lean, you know, it just has very simple words. You know, laminate. Laminate is very much surprises. You will always have surprises. And anything you do, any business you build, or anything you do in life, you will have surprises, unexpected surprises. How entrepreneurs made the unexpected surprises part of building the business, okay? It becomes part. How they turned it into, lemons into laminate of building the business. And finally, pilot in the plane. This is the most important one, which essentially means that they cannot predict, they build and they create as they go along, okay? Now, how does this look like? So, entrepreneurs start with, who am I, what I know, who I know, in bird in hand. So, and then they say, okay, if I do this thing, an exercise here, given who you are, what you know, who do you know, what are the businesses you think you can start? You know, we have done this workshop, and we've got each and every individual come up with at least 10 to 12 of something they can start tomorrow, not when they get funded. All right? And I have done 350 entrepreneurs in 7 countries, in poor countries, right? And I'm not saying poor countries don't build big organizations, but this is how you get poor countries to build entrepreneurial capabilities as well. I worked with 7 countries, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Indonesia, Philippines, and 350. It was funded by an organization which I did during the pandemic. And these guys used this method and built their ventures. Anyway, so what can I do for affordable loss? And then we say, start going and interacting with others. There is an accelerator in Mumbai that says, okay, entrepreneurs, come. This is your idea, right? Okay, this idea. How much money do you want? Oh, 2 million, 3 million, whatever million. What's your shopping list? This is your shopping list? Okay, no money is going to be given. Go and find partners. Go hustle. Go and find partners. Go and do this. And they came back and found that their shopping list is far smaller than what they initially came up with, right? So you have smaller investments from the accelerators. And then pilot in the plane, they got people to start building and start making things happen. And one thing that happened is when this happens, you have new means. When you bring people in, you have new means. You have new resources. You have new things. Now it becomes who we are, what we know, and whom do we know. Now it becomes bigger. Now your resources bigger. And when I speak to entrepreneurs, in fact, even Saras will say in her video, when we spoke to the entrepreneurs, for the first time, entrepreneurs saw themselves as resources. When the entrepreneurs see themselves as a resource, oh my God, I can do this, then they see the world as a resource rich than opportunity poor, right? They see the world as opportunity resource rich. They say, wow, I can do so many things in the world, and I can use so many other resources. But when people come and partner with you, they do not actually necessarily buy into your vision. They will have new vision as well, because they will come up with new things that they think we can do this or that or something new. And so new goal arises. So the converging cycle is what can we do then with the affordable loss? And of course, the world will throw at us different kind of surprises. But if it happens, then if success happens, then you have building new markets. And new markets are built. And if failure happens, the cost of failure is low because failure is already built into the creation of this venture. Failure is part of this venture. It is not a surprise. Oh my God, it's a surprise. It is part of this venture. That means you're shaping it as you go along. So that is basically what we mean by failing fast and failing cheap, because you are building a different mindset of building a venture. It's very difficult to think it through. When I first studied it, I thought it was crazy. I walked out of the classroom and thought the finance professors don't know what the hell is affordable loss. They only know maximization of profit. And we didn't know what it was going on until later I realized, as I spoke to more and more entrepreneurs and I got to know Professor Saras. So I've been talking to, we have a think tank where every Friday between 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. at night, Professor Saras and some other researchers and entrepreneurs from University of Babson and all the top schools are there, and they are giving a lot more research on how to rewrite the Silicon Valley playbook. Okay, and so this is what's happening. Yeah.
We have time in. Can we finalize and have questions?
Yes, sorry, just finishing this. Okay, so this is what where product market fit business model is. So teaching entrepreneurship. So basically, it's about the scientific method, right? So the question is, why do you need to teach entrepreneurship to everyone? When you teach science to everyone, so why do you only teach entrepreneurship to people who want to become entrepreneurs? You need to teach entrepreneurship to everyone. But not everyone will be entrepreneurs and build companies. Everyone can be entrepreneurial, but not necessarily everyone be entrepreneurs. So the current state of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of hodgepodge content. These action policy items. Go and talk to all your entrepreneurs, speak to them, the successful, get their experiences, develop content and matrix that matters, and invest in teachers training. One story, if you go to the Airbnb story, you can listen to Brian Chesky or whoever. I don't want to go through it. If you map it accordingly, she wants me to stop, so I'm going to stop. So I listen to Daria very well. I've been married long enough to listen to a woman who's doing things. Or else you get thrown out. So if you go through the Brian Chesky story and you look at it, you'll see that they have followed effectuation, not just Brian Chesky. You look at Tata, you look at the Chitputra Foundation, anything you look at, they will follow this method. Thank you very much. I'll take questions.
We have time for a few questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
Just by the way, can we share the full presentation with participants?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there is also a video, I'll put it in the WhatsApp group, where Professor Saras has spoken about it. I think her presentation is far more convincing because she broke through the time and didn't listen to anybody. Anyway, go on.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Just wanted to ask you, now that we know effectuation, how did you kind of implement that and then optimize it in our line of work for building ecosystem and entrepreneurs to create better founders and better business?
Oh, a great question. It could be a very long answer, but when I teach entrepreneurship to a small group, or rather to some of them, in fact, I just did it for Lean In, and most of the entrepreneurs came back to me and said, oh my God, this is exactly what I do, and I've been told that I'm doing wrong, I need to have a plan and this and that. Those things doesn't work. So the way we started is that given who you are, what you know, who you know, what are the ventures you can start? What are you, what is it that you want to start? And most of the time, entrepreneurs don't come up with blockbuster ideas, and we pressure them to come up with blockbuster ideas. Actually, most ideas are pretty mundane, and then they turn out to be amazing, right? So you can implement it if you have the right content to work on this. What you have here is enough, and there are a lot of resources and research papers in effectuation.org, and how you can optimize it. It's not actually now it's already, Babson University is already implementing it in their classes. I think MIT and all have implementing it, and the developing countries are finding this is very, very useful, especially when those that don't have money to throw to their entrepreneurs. So there is a lot of things happening. Actual execution plan, we need to talk separately that we can do that. Join the accelerator my decelerator, not accelerator.
We have to come up with our own canvas.
Yes, yeah.
Is that any questions?
I think that.
Hi, I'm asking the questions on behalf of someone.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So how do successful entrepreneurs effectively navigate and capitalize on unexpected challenge in building their businesses?
Successful entrepreneurs, what does it mean? What does successful entrepreneur mean? Does it mean that someone has never failed or who has built a really successful company, right? So a successful entrepreneur would have emerged out of many unsuccessful ventures. And the problem in Asia is we equate a failed venture as a failed entrepreneur. A failed venture is not a failed entrepreneur. So entrepreneurial ventures can fail, not successful entrepreneurs. Successful entrepreneurs are always learning new things from their previous ventures. So if they are successful and they have navigated failures before, then they will know how to keep failures small and keep the success potential higher. Probability higher, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Dash. And could you please receive the certificate?
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Daria.
Thank you so much.